Morning, Cathy.
How are you doing?
Doing all right.
Good.
What's new with you?
I'm just sort of, we were just having a conversation, like whenever I get up to go sing or speak, I always, just right at that moment have to use the bathroom. Right?
Yeah.
So does that happen to anybody else, or is it just, but I just got back from New Orleans. I was at the community church in New Orleans with Reverend Darcy Roque. And when I walked in, they were like, "Good morning, Reverend McGill." And I looked around, and I was like, who are they talking to? And I realized they were talking to me because I was going to be speaking at the church, and it was because of you. And it was so great to be there where no one knew me, and so they still laughed at my jokes. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah. Well, they are.
It was really good, and so I'm grateful to you for giving me that opportunity. It was really wonderful, and I just want to announce that I'm moving to New Orleans. Not really.
We won't let that happen. Yeah.
To move to New Orleans because they know how to have a good time in New Orleans.
True. But
They do.
Yeah. Well, there's room for growth here. We can.
Yeah.
Well, we will join you in improving our having a good timeness
All
about
right.
that. All right.
All
Well,
right.
I just got back from Canada, where I was at the Parliament of the World's Religions.
Did you meet Justin Trudeau?
I did. No, not Justin Trudeau, but I met another Justin.
You met another Justin.
I wish I'd met Justin Trudeau.
Okay.
No, I was.
He's really cute. Yes, he really is.
Acknowledged. Yes. Yeah.
And he goes out in the rain also, I think.
Yeah. Well, I was there listening to speakers representing religions from all over the world coming together to talk about interfaith work. And actually, I walked into a session and I randomly spotted Justin Remmer-Thamert from Albuquerque. He's the executive director of the Faith Coalition for Immigrant Justice. And he was there receiving an award from the Parliament in Toronto for justice work. Yeah. So it was really moving. And I also ended up, I voted before I left, and then I watched the election in Canada with Canadians. And it was really interesting because, something like 90% of Canadians live along the border, and their news stations were covering the US election very closely. So it was big news there. And everything that's happening here in the US was big news there.
Right.
And there's a lot happening.
There is a lot happening,
Yeah.
and I'm often concerned about what people think about me, and when we go to other countries, what they think about us, as Americans, and I hope that we are regarded well in those other countries. But I worry about that sometimes. Do
Yeah,
you?
it's challenging right now. We're at least in everyone's prayers. They're praying for
Yes,
the U.S. to
yes.
straighten itself out. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Thoughts and prayers.
And here we are. I should say in Canada, the full Christmas season was just about to launch into full swing, last week. But it's interesting because their Thanksgiving happens in October, so it's not annoying. They're not jumping before another holiday like we do here. Right. It was right on time.
Right.
And so we're entering our holiday season here too, and I just know that while there's a lot of excitement and joy, it's also a time that can intensify depression or bring up grief or loneliness or loss.
That is very true. I know around the holidays, I lost my mother about this time, about a decade ago now, but it's still as poignant every holiday. And so, it engenders a lot of sadness, and I know it does for a lot of other people as well.
So I thought, we had a Sunday coming up about when gratitude feels impossible.
Yeah.
And I thought, why don't we just sit down and talk?
I think that's a good thing. I like talking, and it's really, it's a good thing to actually, there's nothing, not everything, I think it's James Baldwin that said that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. So let's talk. Let's do it.
And maybe instead of coffee, what we need is, I'm going to just move this over, a little tension tamer tea. How about that?
Tension tamer tea.
Yeah, I got a little tension tamer tea.
Okay, all right.
Carlos is going to hand it to us. Just a splash. How about that? There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That'll work.
So do you have a regular gratitude practice in your life?
Wow. I would say that when I'm at the top of my game, that yes, I do. Um, and it's always a good thing to be just real in public, because I mean, I have to admit that I'm a mess most of the time, but I'm working on it. And so when I'm at the top of my game, I do something on a daily basis that it came from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. I do my morning pages, and sometimes it's like, I hate everybody. I hate my life, but really, by the time I get to that third page of writing, I have gotten to a point of saying, you know what, it's not as bad as I think, and I write this affirmation that one of my spiritual mentors gave me that said that I am divinely guided, I'm blessed, I'm abundantly prospered and favored, and that all things are working together for my good and unfolding as they should. I am undeniable. And once you write that, it's like it becomes real when you write it. So when I'm at the top of my game, I do that, and I'm, planning my day, and it helps me to sort of, figure out how to live my life that day, at least for that day, to be grateful for where I am. And sometimes, it requires a lot of humor. I try to inject some humor into my life and look at my experiences and the times when I go out and say, how could this actually be happening, and how could I be this stupid? I remember one day had been really sick the night before, and I had this meeting with this guy that I was trying to impress. I don't know if any of you all have ever done that, but I was trying to impress this guy, and I had been sick all night, and so I woke up late, and I had to get dressed in a hurry and get down to Starbucks, and I got down there with minutes to spare, and I'm sitting down, and then he walks in all of his wonderful glory, and I was smiling and trying to impress him still, and he goes up to get our coffee, and this guy comes and whispers to me, "Ma'am, your sweater's on backwards," and he was actually in line getting coffee, and so I was able to back into the restroom and put my clothes on right.
Yeah.
And so, you got to have some humor to get through that, and I'm grateful for humor in those instances.
I asked my son to tell me some times when gratitude is hard for him.
Right.
And he gave me, he's a young adult, and gave me a lot of socially awkward situation examples,
Right.
like when the waiter brings your food and says, "Have a great meal," and you just say, "You too," without thinking about it. Like,
Right.
like that kind of thing.
Exactly.
That was funny. Well, I have a gratitude practice. It's really a mindfulness practice that started when I had little babies, and it was just chaos, and I was studying religions, and I wanted to develop a meditation practice, but that just seemed impossible. Like, when was I ever going to have quiet? And so, and I wasn't going to get up at 5 a.m. to do it.
Right.
So I read a book about mindful parenting. I think lots of people here have read it also, and it talked about just practicing mindfulness right in the flow of your day, just any time in the day, whatever's happening, to just call yourself back to your breath and notice it, and notice what's going on in your body, and just be really present. And so I started doing that, and that still is a part of every day. Several times a day, I'll just find myself doing that, and it mostly leads also to a moment of gratitude, just thanks for what's around me.
Yeah, I think that, as we just sort of try to be present, which is a real challenge most of the time, just to say, let me be in this moment and be grateful for all that this moment is and all that it is not. So.
Yeah. So, are there ever times when gratitude feels impossible for you?
Yes. There are some moments, and I experienced quite a few of them this week. I spent my life doing public service. Is what I learned from my mother, who is a great public servant, a teacher for 31 years. And I often find myself in rooms where I am the only person who looks like me, and sometimes the only person who speaks like me, and who's willing to say, "Excuse me, but what did y'all just say?" And it excluded a bunch of people. It is declaring what most people consider to be a failure, a success, and you're doing it because you have the power to do so. And sometimes that puts me in a situation where I'm considered to be not a team player, and it feels impossible to find gratitude, and I feel this sense of rage that I have to be that person and be that voice in that room. And so in those times, it's hard to be grateful. Yeah, it's hard to be grateful. And what I have to wind up doing is figuring out, walking things back to some simplicity to be able to express gratitude and look at the fact that I got into the room and I'm there to represent, and so that I will do. How about you?
Yeah, well, for sure. Also,
Ministers don't get to be ungrateful, right?
I've heard it said that you can't feel a negative feeling and gratitude at the same time.
Right.
But in my experience, that's not really true. I think you can be, sad and grateful. I often minister to people who are grieving and experiencing gratitude at the same time. But I would agree that rage is one where it's really hard for gratitude to get in. I think of rage as a feeling that's just bigger than my body. It's just, there's no room for anything else, right?
Right.
So I can relate to that. And certainly there are other times in life when it could be hard, like when we're experiencing depression, for example. I think it can be hard to be in touch with gratitude also.
I think that is very true, and it's hard to be real enough to admit that sometimes you're depressed, and I think that when we can do that, when we can say, I feel a great sense of depression, I'm very sad that my mother is no longer living on this earthly plane, that makes me feel depressed. And sometimes it's exacerbated in this holiday season where you are supposed to be happy all the time. And so, having some strategies to be able to deal with defining what gratitude is. And so gratitude really becomes a strategy, like using those morning pages and remembering how great my mother was and that she taught me to be in service to other people. And so getting out and being of service helps me to figure out how to get out of to get back to gratitude, because when you're helping other people, it's hard to feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah. I like the idea of gratitude as a strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it can, when it feels impossible, where does it fit in? Well, maybe you're not feeling all the time, but it could be a strategy.
It could be a strategy. Right. It's, one of the things that I do when I'm working with organizations is to say we have to have strategic alignment with our mission. And my mission is to be of service and to live in joy. And in order for me to live in joy, I have to find my way to gratitude. So whatever strategies you have that you can employ in your personal life to get yourself out of yourself, and understanding that while those things that are happening are real and you have the right to be upset about some things that are going on in the world and in your personal life, that you can have a strategy of being in gratitude and writing down some things that you're grateful for, and figuring out how to walk yourself back to gratitude. Yeah? I know, I'm looking at this like,
had a thought.
What do you think? What do you think?
What
do you think?
Well, I was thinking, when you're experiencing rage, and sometimes that just comes along with just a feeling of overwhelm by what is bad in this world or unjust. It's really tied to a sense of helplessness if you kind of get down in there. And I find that gratitude practices, they help me focus on what I've got, like what is instead of what isn't, and I end up finding my power again through that, and being able to find energy for action and just to continue to be.
Yeah, and I think that that it also helps to have good mentors. I have some really great spiritual mentors. You're one of them, and I often call Reverend Angela and just spew venom about like what's going on, and how angry I am about certain things in my life. And she always manages to help me get back to an understanding of where I am in the world, and that it's okay to feel what I'm feeling, and that I can make it. And I'm so grateful for my spiritual mentors and the people that have helped me in my life. And I'm working on the New Mexico Black History Organizing Committee's festival and events for 2019. And one of the things that I came up with for the theme this year came from a lot of bodies of work. One that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, declarations of interdependence, that we are really dependent upon each other. And when we isolate, it's hard to stay depressed. But if you understand that we're really interdependent, and so you can reach out to people, and people are always so willing to help. They're always really willing to help. And what Martin Luther King talked about was that it's really impossible for me to be rich as long as other people are poor, and I'm not understanding of that. I can't really be healthy until I'm concerned about the fact that other people have a vision of being healthy or an access to being healthy. And so recognizing that we're interdependent, I think, has been one of the ways that I've been able to maintain gratitude.
Well, that is the perfect segue to our musical guest on this
Yes.
episode of The Deep Dish.
Right.
We've got DeWitt Bolden and company coming back up to reprise their song from earlier. And Cathy, I'm grateful for you.
Yeah.
You're a mentor to me, too.
Thank you. And can I say to this church that you guys have demonstrated so much love and beauty in my life. And I am sincerely grateful for everything you've done for me, for everything you've done for the Root Summer Leadership Academy, and for everything that you're doing for this community. Y'all keep up the good work. Grateful for you.
I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you,
I need you to
survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you.
You pray for me.
I love you.
I need you to survive.
I won't harm you with words from my mouth.
I need you to
It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive.
Go in peace, friends, and may love bless you and keep you until we're gathered again. Blessed be.